Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
I didn't know that was coming, and I didn't know what that was at first. It's amazing.
And Brandan Schultz.
They want him to be traded for a second-round pick so he can go somewhere and get paid like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Go Hawks!
This is episode 214 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. And joining me, my good buddy, Montana Seahawker Adam Emmert.
Hey, man, take two. We'll see. This one's going to be way better since we're redoing the pod because I'm a catfish idiot.
Take two. Here we go.
Take two.
Tried it yesterday. We're trying again today.
Yeah.
And we hit the record button today. So
3/4 of the way through, and I looked down and I realized I hadn't pressed record, which turns out is important to creating a podcast, is pressing record.
Pressing record. It's essential. Pro tip from 5-year veterans in the podcasting world.
My facial expression, I'm sure, was priceless when I realized what I
wish I could have had a picture.
Well, you did. It was right up on your screen.
Well, I mean, taking a picture to share with everybody.
Oh, well, then you need to work on Shift Apple 4.
Well, getting into this week's show, got a lot to talk about with some of our post-game thoughts. We had our quick reaction show from the Chargers preseason game. We'll probably be doing that again here with the Vikings coming up. But so with this midweek show, we'll get some of our reactions and thoughts from now that we've had a chance to allow it to marinate a little bit. And so we'll get to that. We'll talk a little bit about Jon Ryan leaving this week. And I don't think we've announced it on the show yet, Adam, but the 13th annual People's Choice Podcast Awards. We are 3-time back-to-back-to-back nominees.
That is correct. The three-peat of nominations, and that's all because of you guys. If it weren't for you folks going out there and casting your vote to nominate us to be a part of the finals, there's no way we'd be there, let alone for the third consecutive year. You guys are literally, I think, out of all the podcasts in the world, the Little Flockers are the best listeners on the planet, because between that, which is pretty incredible accomplishment, and again, it's all them, and the fact that we reached 300 Little Flockers and we're starting to do the post-game shows, like that too is just freaking amazing to think that we're, getting to these points and having your guys' support. It's just awesome, man.
Going into our 6th season, this is big.
This is big.
And it's all because of the Flockers.
Yeah. Most people, in the NFL, they make their jump year 2, year 3, from that kind of rookie. For podcasting, it's commonly known that it's year 6 that podcasters take the leap to higher performance. So,
it took me 3 years to get my 2-year degree out of community college too. So I guess that just makes sense.
Yeah. Well, hey, it took me 4 3/4 years to get my bachelor's degree in photojournalism.
Yeah, there's no timetable on school. People try and put one on there.
I'd put a timetable on it. It was 4 years, and I thought I had it all plotted out perfectly.
Well, getting into the show, Jon Ryan, the big news from this past week. Well, maybe not the biggest news, but I think we should start there because he's meant so much to this team over the years. A beloved punter going back all the way to the Mike Holmgren era in 2008. And survived the Jim Mora Jr. era with Seattle and then kept on with the Pete Carroll era for so long. It's tough to see a guy like Jon Ryan go, and just an absolutely hilarious Twitter timeline of him sitting in a local bar the day after the day the news was announced that he was cut, and doing pull tabs in the local Seattle bar and filling up growlers. So that's what we expect from Jon Ryan.
Right. So these pull tab things, you explained them to me yesterday a little bit, but I'm still confused. I think we decided they're a lottery ticket of sorts, kind of like a scratch off.
Except instead of scratching, there's a little piece of paper that you pull off and it reveals like the whatever, fruits and like a slot machine.
Right. So they must create pull tabs for people they think are even poorer than the people that buy scratch offs. Because if you buy a scratch off, they're assuming you still have enough pocket change to have like a quarter to scratch it off, correct?
Uh-huh.
So pull tabs, they're assuming that you don't even have a penny left, and like you have to be able to gamble with your bare fingers.
I think they're cheaper. I think they are cheaper than lottery tickets too.
That's hilarious.
So,
but yeah, a crazy day in the sense that Jon Ryan is no longer a Seahawk. I thought the alert that I got on my phone officially from the Seahawks was beautifully done. It said something like 10-year veteran Seahawks punter and Seahawks icon.
Yeah,
Jon Ryan released, and I like that. I was like, yeah, he is a Seahawks icon.
You know, if you were going to put a punter into the Ring of Honor,
I think he's there.
I think that's who I would pick. I can't think of a Seahawks punter over the years that's been that endearing to fans.
Rootin' tootin'?
A little bit.
Yeah.
That would be the only other one.
Right. But he's still not a Jon Ryan status.
I don't even think, how many years did he do with Seattle?
How few players have the kind of tenure with one team that Jon Ryan had? It's very few. I mean, especially to have that kind of longevity in your career to start with, but then to do that with just one team is almost unheard of. So one thing that I do enjoy about this is that this is about as good of a breakup as you can have. It's like breaking up with somebody that you care a ton about, but you both just know it's over. And it's very amicable. And, you know, when you see each other in the grocery store, it's just a wave and like everything's good and don't mind talking to him. You give him a hug in public. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody's fine. Like,
yeah. He gets reunited with his old BFF, Stephen Hauschka,
makes me
in
so
Buffalo.
Happy. Yes. This makes me so happy. Those of you that know my AFC team is the Buffalo Bills in, a distant second favorite team. I mean, like, I just like them a little better than all the other teams, and that's pretty much it.
You don't have to explain yourself. It's okay.
You have to explain your fandom. I mean, you do. But it's really cool that he can go and be there with House Money. I mean, obviously, they're good buddies. Jon Ryan remains close to Canada, and he didn't sign with either the Rams, Cards, or Niners. So I was very excited about that.
Yes, we didn't want him to go to any of those teams, and I saw your tweet on Twitter. A lot of people jumping into after you said Rams, Cardinals, and 49ers, and they added on Steelers, Packers, Patriots, Cowboys,
Falcons.
Yeah, a lot of hatred for other teams out there.
Yo, man. I mean, it was getting to the point to where there weren't going to be a lot of places for Jon Ryan to land, you know?
Buffalo made sense.
Yeah, but everybody seemed to agree that the Bills was A-OK. So that's super cool.
So, yeah, 7 years for Bootin' Tootin' with the Seahawks from 91 to 97. So his 10 years with Seattle definitely beat that. And I think there's one memory that will stick with all of us from Jon Ryan over his time. One of the biggest plays that he made during his time with the Seahawks. And that was in the NFC Championship game with the Seahawks down 16-0. He's the one that helps to get the Seahawks on the board.
So the Seahawks are going to send Stephen Hauschka on to try to put the first points of the day on the board for the Hawks. It'll be a field goal attempt of 38 yards off the left hash mark out of the hold of Jon Ryan. Hauschka from 38. Snap is good. Spot is a fake. Jon Ryan around the far side. He's going to throw. He's got a man in the end zone. It is a touchdown. Seahawks. Are you kidding me? Gary Gilliam, a former tight end, now a tackle. His first touchdown as a pro. Jon Ryan with a touchdown reception. Holy smoke.
Such a good play from Ryan, and almost could have run for the first down. He had the speed on that play and just lofted it up perfectly to Gilliam in the end zone. Yeah,
but I think one thing that we can universally agree on is the fact that Jon Ryan has the worst touchdown pass face of all time.
Worst or most awesome?
It's worst. That's a bad look. That's not how you want to look. Like Jimmy GQ doesn't look like that when he's throwing a touchdown. He looks handsome and suave.
Yeah.
You know, Russ has that same deadpan expression, right? Like, you know, it doesn't matter. Jon Ryan looked like he was simultaneously taking a crap while being scared by a bear. That's what it looked like.
I love all the photos that came out of it, too.
Oh, it was great. It was a great meme. No doubt. Michael Dixon probably will not supply us with the same sort of facial expressions and that sort of thing, but a heck of a punter, and we've seen what he can do in the preseason, and it made it an easy decision for the Seahawks. I thought Dixon handled it well, calling the release of Jon Ryan bittersweet, just because it was great that he won the job, but it also sucked because he's like, dude, he was like a mentor.
Yeah.
He was great.
And from all accounts, too, it sounded like Jon Ryan was super classy throughout the entire transition.
Super classy.
Which, I mean, you wouldn't expect anything different. But how difficult must it be kind of having that in your mind that here you are, you may be training your replacement to take your job?
Yeah. I mean, I think once you draft a punter, in Jon Ryan's mind, you got to know that it's not you may be training your replacement. You are.
Yeah.
And so this offseason is your chance to audition for all the other teams. And if you can handle your business with class, you can show that you still have it yourself, that this is just a cost-cutting measure for the most part, then, you know, you have a chance to latch on somewhere else. And he did. And he's with the Bills, and he's in a good situation. I'm going to watch a lot of Bills games this year, I think.
Well, between your quarterback crush, Josh Allen, from the rookie season, and then former Seahawks over there, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus, they have a pretty good running back. Yeah,
Shady's pretty good. We'll see if he plays.
That we will see. But you did mention the cost-cutting measure, and it does save $2 million against the Seahawks cap. Going to SpotTrack.com, it looks like the estimated salary cap right now, the Seahawks have about $12 million in space, which,
holy crap,
you know, with Frank Clark, Tyler Lockett looking for new deals.
Are those the only two guys looking for new deals?
No,
There's
KJ
nobody else
Wright.
looking for
KJ Wright.
Nobody else looking for a new deal?
Other than that, I can't really think of anybody.
Can't think of a guy, huh?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, Earl Thomas still holding out and not going to the Cowboys, it seems, because they just signed Deron Johnson, another former Seahawks safety.
Oh, I don't know. I read a little bit that somebody had written saying, well, now maybe they're just trying to improve their offer for Earl Thomas by signing Deron Johnson somehow. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, he's not going to the Cowboys.
That makes no sense.
Yeah. He's like, look, here's the thing. Like, they've made it pretty clear. We're not trading him. We're not giving him a raise. We expect him to show up and play ball. That's the one outcome of this. So we'll see.
It's not hard.
It's just a matter of when. It's just, or, you know, not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Well, another job was decided in the special teams game as Jason Myers was cut, making Sebastian Janikowski the Seahawks kicker for the season.
I'm super excited to have a guy on the team that I might actually be in better physical shape than. Like, it's nice. Just like one guy that I feel like I could probably beat in a foot race on the Seahawks.
1 year younger by at least a year. And
is Seabass 40? Yeah,
and your trimmer by about 70 pounds. So
no, not 70. He can't be more than about 230.
He is listed at Seahawks.com. It's 260 pounds.
Holy hell! How tall is he?
6'2".
So we're like the same height.
You're the same height, and except the difference is he might be able to fill in at right tackle.
Jesus, I guess. I'm a $185 and I'm not slim. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's pretty jacked though. Like his arm muscle definition is stronger than yours.
Well, so far, we'll see. I just started this gym thing. I decided I was going to be a gym guy now. So I'm coming for Seabass now.
Hey, maybe in a couple of years you could be auditioning for the kicker job. If they're taking 41-year-olds.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm an excellent kicker, no doubt about it. I've done it twice.
Or work on your long snapping game again.
Yeah, it wouldn't take long for me to get back in long snapping form. And I like the way the long snapper practices, man. That's a good gig. Tyler Ott's like living the dream.
All the special teamers live the dream in practice.
I won't get off this for as long as he's on the team. Tyler Ott needs to change his catfish number to 00.
Any long snapper.
Well, especially Tyler Ott.
With the 2 zeros and then the 2 T's.
Well, yeah, like you said, like Ott, like a double Ott 6 or 30 Ott 6, right?
Right. Yeah, the 2
Ott
zeros
is used for the zeros. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's spelled differently, but I don't know.
I know it's spelled differently. You got to think outside the box.
That's terrible.
It's not terrible. It's punny.
Great.
I think we missed our podiversary, by the way. I think that was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, happy podiversary, because now you know that's how you can tell a couple's been together for 5 years is like at the end of an exchange like that is the one looks at the other and just goes, great.
Great.
Then moves on. That's annoying, but I can't do without you. So I guess this is what we're doing.
And moving on. Let's go back and talk a little bit about the Chargers game. The Seahawks and Chargers. Seattle loses 24-14. But the Seahawks, they show the ability to move the ball down the field pretty well on their first 3 drives. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, a penalty brings the first touchdown off the board. They don't get into the end zone the second time because Jermaine Ifedi can't block. And the third time was because Chris Carson couldn't hold on to the ball.
Right.
So kind of a mix of all previous year's problems. The Will Dissly block in the back, I think the best way to define that would be ticky-tack with the call.
Yeah,
that looked like a really strong drive, and a lot of us were pretty excited just how quickly they moved down the field early on against the Chargers defense.
Yeah, really. I mean, the offense looked effective, and I know a lot of people are wringing their hands over the red zone efficiency. But you know, if the ref just keeps his flag in his pocket like he should have, then you know that's one touchdown there. And basically, all Chris Carson has to do is not do something that's way out of character for him, and that's just not fumble. Like he's not a fumbler. Like that's not his MO. It's not something that's followed him through college or even the short period of time he's been in the NFL. Can you recall another Chris Carson fumble?
It's not jumping out at me, no.
No, that's exactly my point. So that's going to be the exception rather than the rule. So 2 out of those 3 drives are fixable things, right? Will Dissly could learn a little better about hand placement. Mm-hmm. Like don't give the ref the excuse to throw the flag, even though the ref should know better. That had nothing to do with the play. And then, you know, the third thing of those 3 drives that caused us to not score is completely unfixable and is something that will plague this team for the rest of the season as long as he's on the roster and is starting at right tackle. And his name is Jermaine Ifedi.
Even a few days out, it was a rough game for him. And one thing that I think we can take away as a positive is that the Seahawks are also recognizing it, because apparently George Fant got some work at right tackle. And you sounded open to this in the post-game show.
Yeah.
There's no great answer.
Yeah, so I read a great line in one of the articles describing the news that Fant was competing now at right tackle. And the line went something like this. George Fant is not the answer to any question related to football. He's just not. And so the idea that like, hooray, George Fant's going to take over there, I don't know that that's going to be any better. Basically, to me, the only thing that you have is to hold out hope that Isaiah Battle's actually good and gets back and healthy. It sounds like he started to practice again today. So that's cool. But other than that, other than maybe moving some dudes around a little bit, this is kind of the last that you have, last things to try, because there's really no free agents out there to go and save the day. So to me, I don't know. This would be what I would try. I'd start playing Sweezy at left guard. I would move Posick over to right tackle and give that a shot and see how that looks.
I like the idea of having a solid left side of the line. And I don't know. It did sound like, though, that J.R. Sweezy was getting some work at the left guard spot, too.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that could be maybe...
Why wouldn't Sweezy be solid on the left side of the line? Like completing that solid left side of the line. What makes you think Posick is better than Sweezy at left guard? Like, I don't understand where that comes from. How many Super Bowls has Posick won for you? Zero. J.R. Sweezy has won you one.
I don't remember him being particularly solid at the right guard spot, so I don't have a whole lot of confidence that moving over to the left guard is going to make him pretty solid because he got paid. He got paid, but remember where we were at that time. We were thinking, yeah, J.R. Sweezy's okay, but for that amount of money, have a good time in Tampa.
Yeah, and remember what we had after he left? We were clamoring for okay.
It's true. Well, clearly something has to be done about Ifedi, because I was on Field Goals looking at an article by Oliver Connolly, mm-hmm. and he cut out a play of Ifedi actually falling over while attempting to block.
Yeah. So is this the article that had about 7-8 plays cut out?
Yes.
Yeah, I read that as well and watched videos. It was excellent. They did an amazing job with it. I think the thing that was most alarming coming away from looking at those to me was the example that he gave regarding the mental aspect of the game for Ifedi.
Yeah.
When there was a simple blitz and a little stunt right in front of him and completely and utterly confused. Had no idea where to go, who to block, what to do. This is year 3, man. Like, this is the stuff you should have figured out. You should be mastering your craft. And it's not like he's been injured the whole time and hasn't had reps or, things like that.
He's had all the reps.
He's been playing. By now, like, you should have this on lockdown. And Melvin Ingram made him look stupid. Look, I understand he's an elite
good
pass rusher,
right,
and all that, but most teams have at least one dude. And if I'm any team that's playing the Seahawks, I take my one dude who can rush a passer. I just put him in front of Jermaine Ifedi and just start racking up sacks.
Yeah, this is my favorite quote from the article. Above, Ifedi is supposed to climb up to the wheelbacker, seal him, and flip his hips toward the field. Easy, right? Nope. Ifedi climbed up, initially looking toward the mic. He realized his mistake and peeled toward the will. The will delivered an in-out boxer step, leading Ifedi to lunge, whiff the block, lose balance, and fall over.
Yep. That's your first round draft pick.
I feel like Fant can outperform in that area.
Are we sure?
I feel like it.
Okay.
It's a
all
feeling.
Right. I don't know, man. I'm rooting for it. Let's put it that way. I'm rooting for George Fant to come in and be a quality right tackle. Like, that would be really cool. Because at that point, the rest of the line looks pretty damn good.
We just need an okay line. We don't need the Cowboys. We don't need
the Rams.
Yeah.
They've got a pretty decent offensive line.
Okay.
Jags are okay. Lions are decent.
Yeah.
Philly's pretty good. So there you go. There's a handful. Yeah. I mean, just competent. Just competent. Like, if you give Russell Wilson just competent, he'll give you 10 wins.
I still think, though, if it works out in the way that you have 4 pretty good and all you have to do is worry about the right tackle spot, that's at least better than what we've dealt with the past few years.
I would think if I'm Russell Wilson, that feels like an upgrade, right? And not only that, but the guy coming from that side, that where the right tackle plays, at least that's in
the
Russell's line of sight.
Right.
Yeah. So, he's like, oh, okay. Once again, there's a guy coming. I'll go ahead and, do this spin move or whatever it is that I do. And then I'll check up a sexy deep ball.
Yeah.
Like, rather than having to like dodge that guy and then the 2 other dudes that came through on a whiff,
Other takeaways from the game against the Chargers. Rasheem Green looking good once again on the defensive side. That graded out highest among the team on Pro Football Focus. Chris Carson, despite the fumble, looks like our starting running back.
Yes, absolutely. Chris Carson really does look the part, does he not? I mean, that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
And talk about looking the part. I mean, Rasheem Green has, can you honestly look, and I know this is blasphemy to a degree, but just through a couple preseason games, does he look all that different than Mike Bennett to you?
He's doing a pretty darn good impression of him.
I mean, at the very least, right? You look at what he's put on tape so far and you go, that's 80% of Mike Bennett, pretty easy. And that's feeling pretty good.
I don't think he's going to require the double teams like Bennett would.
No.
And so that's where maybe you lose some of that. But I think with Frank Clark on the other side, too, with the focus being there, then you could at least, I think, see some production at that spot. And that's what you're seeing through the preseason.
Yeah. I mean, really, the defensive line has looked pretty damn good on the passing side of things. I think where I have a little bit of concern was just stopping the run. I mean, they were kind of getting gashed up the middle. I think that's something that is fixable. And oftentimes you see that with the Seahawks. I mean, how many years have we seen them where they struggle to stop the run up the middle the first couple games for like some reason? And you always hear, Coach Carroll come out and say something about 2 things usually. We got to fix pad level and our run fits. And he talks about guys like getting out of their assignment and not just doing their job. And then they usually figure it out and everything's fine. So I'm feeling pretty good about the defensive line overall.
Another guy up there on top of the PFF list for the Seahawks defense, Poona Ford.
All right. Yeah.
Number 1 for the entire preseason on the defensive side.
Okay. Well, we'll see. You haven't heard a lot of talk from the coaches regarding Mr. Ford. But we'll see what that looks like in the final shakedown. I haven't sat and really thought about the defensive line and how many they'll keep and which guys I think they will. I haven't given that much thought yet, but it would be cool if he made it.
With the fact that they're using Quentin Jefferson more on the edge than interior,
yeah,
I think that's a good sign for Poona Ford, because then you can, if you keep 4, you can keep Naz Jones, Tom Johnson,
Shamar Stevens.
Well, then you have Jaron Reed. So, even if you keep, they usually keep 4 and not 5.
Yeah.
So you're going to end up having to make a tough decision either with Steven or.
Well, I think Johnson and Steven are a lock, right?
I don't know if they are, because I think Jaron Reed and Naz Jones are a lock.
Right.
But Steven has played pretty well through the preseason too, and he's not quite as. I mean, Tom Johnson's 34 years old.
I'd rather keep an extra lineman than receiver. I think
so too. And those are 1-year rental guys too from the Vikings. I think long term, if you let Poona Ford go, he's going to get snatched up by. Yeah,
he ain't coming back. Right. And you're not stashing him on practice squad. No. I don't know. Interesting decisions coming up here.
There will be a tough decision there. There's going to be tough decisions at the wide receiver spot. As you mentioned, you think you only keep 5. I think once you get past Doug Baldwin, Tyler Lockett, John Brown, and I think it's going to be David Moore.
Yeah, I think those 4 you can pencil in right now, right?
I think with Brandan Marshall, there's still that question of, it's kind of the same thing with Tom Johnson, 1-year rental, older player. Mm-hmm. Yep. Do you keep a potential, a younger player who's going to be on the roster longer?
That can do what, though? Like the rest of the receivers, what have they really shown you?
And that's the thing about the receiving group. I
think you'd rather keep that threat of Brandan Marshall in the red zone, being able to put him down there and just, box people out. And he's shown it in practice. We haven't seen it in the preseason games yet, but he's been showing it in practice, what he can do. I think it's that 5 right there that you keep.
The question for me would be Marcus Johnson, maybe for his special teams ability. Tanner
Possibly.
McAvoy for his special teams ability.
I think one of those 2 guys only if you keep 6. But that means you're keeping 1 less back. And now with McKissick injured, I think you probably keep 1 extra back.
I would go more on the backside. Cyril Grayson, though, has been taking kickoff returns behind McKissick. But you have Lockett, so.
And Penny. Penny was a hell of a returner in college.
So Grayson, maybe you don't need so much.
Yeah.
And he could be another year on the practice squad, too, because that was the guy who played track coming out of high school or coming out of college. And
right. Is that how the kids say it? You play track?
You play track, yeah.
Or do you run track?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I played track when I did track.
You played track?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe you play field, because there's track and field. You run track and you play field?
Okay, well, I did the field, so that's why I played.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Discus, high jump.
Well, I think the high jump is part of the track part, isn't it?
Yeah, but you don't run high jump.
Well, you run up to the high jump and then jump over it, right?
Well, yeah, but that's not the descriptor you use.
It's not running high jump?
Yeah, you play high jump.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I didn't do it professionally, clearly.
No, your white man hops are probably just as much as you would think. Yeah.
What are you going to be looking for in this game against the Vikings? Because this is going to be the game where the Seahawks, you see Russell Wilson through the entire first half, and they maybe even come out and run a series after halftime. This is the longest that you're going to see the starters in the game against the Vikings, and a pretty good defense to go up against as well.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what J.R. Sweezy does in this game. That's on my radar.
We haven't seen him out there yet.
The ability to hold on to the ball for Chris Carson is going to be huge. With the McKissick injury, now I'm curious to see what CJ Prosise does. Because, I mean, basically all he has to do is not get hurt, and he probably makes the team at this point, right?
At least until McKissick comes back, yeah.
Right. So that'll be interesting to me. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm very interested to see what Trey Flowers does with a little more run against a team with really good receivers and a mediocre quarterback. I want to see if he can hold up once again for a third week. I know he got by Keenan Allen a couple times, but he's Keenan Allen, and Trey Flowers is switching from safety to corner, and he's a rookie. overall, I think he's played pretty well, and I like the way he looks out there.
A lot of credit to Trey Flowers early on in the season. There's a guy who I had no expectation for to see on the roster, especially with Byron Maxwell coming back, but with his injury kind of lingering through the first couple of games. Mm-hmm. It's been kind of neat to see him out there and performing with the first team defense and really performing at a level where you go, yeah, that's better than you see with he's average.
Yeah.
And for a 5th round rookie to be average in your first couple preseason games, that leaves room for a lot of upside.
Yeah. And especially when you have, it's not like he's overachieving physically, right? Like he has the physical build and all the physical attributes to really do this at a high level. I mean, he looks a lot like Browner out there to me.
He does.
That big Mullen type corner. That's exciting. So I'll be definitely watching him. You know, I'd like to see extra time of Shaquem out there and to see if he can string together a third real solid game. If he can do that, at that point you go, okay, not only does this guy have a future as a good special team player, but eventually a guy who actually makes a difference on defense. And so that's interesting.
He was one that did not grade out highly in this last game.
I don't care.
He missed a tackle. He wasn't all over the field, it seemed like he was in the first game, but
it was still a good performance.
I'm just excited for him to make the team.
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely making.
Would he be the Casey Williams of last year if he didn't make it? It'd be more devastating, yes. Right?
Oh, I think the nation would riot. Like, I know everybody's all divided on all this political stuff, but no, if the Seahawks cut Shaquem Griffin
and storm the VMAC,
there would be riots in the streets, from Nebraska to New York to Seattle, like everywhere. Pitchforks and torches, man.
Shaquem Griffin bringing us all together.
That's right.
Uniting around a common cause.
Exactly.
Yeah, we got to see these guys on the team together. I'm with you in a lot of spots too. I'm curious to see if Tedrick Thompson continues to kind of fill out the back end of that defense as with the starters, and I want to see who the starting offensive line is in this game against the Vikings. If they trot out Jermaine Ifedi and just give him a short leash, and then bring in Fant, or if we see Fant in the starting lineup to kick off that game.
You can't start Ifedi. Like, I mean, it's done, right? The Ifedi experiment, like that, it's over now. Like, I mean, we know that he doesn't have the ability in any way.
I feel like everybody's coming on board with that. I know I tried to defend him for a while, and I don't think I could do it anymore.
Hey, I mean, I'm all for giving a guy like all the chances that he needs to really get the job done. But one of the things that alarms me a little bit was listening to Cliff Averill in an interview a few months ago, and the topic of the offensive line came up, and somebody even kind of snuck in Ifedi's name, within the question. And his answer, while not calling out Ifedi specifically, I thought was interesting. And he said something along the lines of the reason why there hasn't been a lot of growth from certain players is a sense of entitlement and a lack of want to. And it does kind of feel like it fits what we see on the field with Ifedi, right?
Yeah.
Like, with as much opportunity and with this physical gifts that he has, it should happen by now.
Well, according to Pete Carroll in his press conference from this week, the competition is on.
The comp is on. George has had a kind of a startling career, really, to come so far so fast. And there's nothing that we put in front of him that he couldn't handle. Even when you take a look at the rehab process that he went through, he had just totally competed and attacked it and came back in great shape. So this has been the thought all along, to get him back moving again, feeling comfortable at his left side, and with the thought of him getting over there and competing on the right side. It's just another example of the competition that's on the roster. It's good for everybody. It's good for the guys that are in front. It's great for the guys that are working for their spots, and that's always been our mentality.
But yeah, competition's on. Other news: Seahawks are hosting Junior Galette. Just no.
How
about that?
No.
I'd rather miss the playoffs and watch the Rams lose or win the division than have somebody like Junior Galette on my team. Thank you.
Yeah, looking at you too, Stringfellow.
Absolutely.
I want to hold on to him as long as we can and then cut him just at the very last minute. I want him to be the last cut.
So he's just out of work for a while?
Or just, just so it cuts just a little bit deeper.
Okay. Man, that's vicious. It's almost like you live with, four girls. Like you got some vicious games you can play.
Other news, Seahawks signed veteran linebacker Eric Walden.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I recognize the name. Played for the Colts for a bit, right?
Had a career high, 11 sacks, 3 forced fumbles his final year with the Colts. I don't think he played last year.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, let's see if he's got anything in the tank, I guess. With the Marcus Smith retirement cutting, whatever that weird situation was, like, I guess you bring in another guy for competition's sake. That was odd.
Yeah, about all the news that we got with Marcus Smith was from an Ian Rappaport tweet. And, well, J.D. McKissick apparently told somebody that he thought Marcus Smith was retiring. Ian Rappaport tweeted out that Marcus Smith was leaning toward retirement. Pete Carroll said that there were some personal issues that factored into the decision. And that's about all we have.
Yeah, not a lot of information there. I hope he's doing okay. I don't know what the deal is, but I don't want to speculate either. So just best of luck to him.
One person online pointed out that I think he's having a kid here soon, so you hope everything's okay. And maybe this was just a personal decision like we've seen with so many other people with concern about long-term health and just ready to be done.
Like I said, possibly. I don't really care much to speculate on it.
Well, there's one other thing I want to cover here before we hit the break, Adam, and that was one thing that Brian Schottenheimer said. He interviewed with Seattle Times, Bob Condotta, I think it was, and one interesting thing that came out of it was his magic number of 53. And I don't know if you remember this, going back to the Marty Schottenheimer days, I think there was a magic number of 49. And this number comes from a combination of pass completions and runs. And what Schottenheimer said is that there's a strong correlation that once you hit 53 successful pass completions and runs, that generally works out to a win.
In one game?
Yes.
How often do you get 53 snaps in a game?
Well, I went back and looked at just last year, just 9 of the 16 games, the Seahawks or either team hit 53.
Okay. So about half the time, huh?
About half the time. And the Seahawks won 3 times, hitting 53. They lost 4 games when the other team hit 53. And they beat 2 teams when the other team had 53 plays. The Houston game, they had 53 plays. Seattle had 47. And Philadelphia had 55 and Seattle 45 and won the game. So it worked out 7 out of those 9 times to be correct. So there's a correlation there.
Sure. I think further study is needed, but okay. I thought 53 would be the percentage of hat that he buys when he buys a hat. He only buys 53% of a hat.
53%. Yeah.
It's called a visor.
AKA visor, AKA hobo hat.
Correct.
And he lost it for the game against the Chargers. So
did he look
something
better?
to watch against this Vikings matchup. Will he be wearing a full hat or a half hat?
And I thought he looked better. He looked more professional.
One thing that it does suggest to me, though, this 53 number, and because they only hit it 9 times out of the last 16, I wonder if they're going to go, if his offense is going to be a little bit more up-tempo.
I would go with no.
No?
I mean, that's not... When is Brian Schottenheimer ran an up-tempo offense in the history of the NFL?
When is Pete Carroll run an up-tempo offense, too?
Right.
I feel like this is Pete's offense more than it is Schottenheimer's, more than Bevel's, because there just hasn't been a lot of change. And that doesn't look all that different, apart from the new O-line coordinator actually doing some different blocking schemes up in front.
Right. And there being an actual pocket thingy for Russ more often than not.
Yes.
So that's the biggest difference, right?
Mike Solari, yeah. I just don't think we're going to see a whole lot of difference in terms of the overall offensive scheme and the type of plays run.
Why not?
From Bevel to Schottenheimer.
No, I don't think it's going to be a drastic change. That's
and
for
Pete
sure.
Carroll really or Schottenheimer said as much, saying that really he's only brought in maybe 30% difference to the playbook. They're keeping about 70% of what was there before.
Well, we'll see as far as the offense goes. But for the most part, just like you said, it's going to be more or less the same. Russell Wilson for MVP. I mean, because he's going to be the majority of the offense, and he might actually have a chance to, stay upright So if that's the case, like he could very well win MVP. Think if the Seahawks go like 11-5, win the division. Like that's a pretty strong MVP bid for Russell Wilson at that point, correct?
Especially considering media expectations this year.
That's what I'm saying.
And even starting out 0-2 in the preseason, everybody's pointing to Seattle and going, yep, look, they don't have anybody that can play.
Oh, yeah. Preseason matters. I remember the Browns going undefeated in preseason last year and then proceeding to not win one game.
Yeah. Preseason totally matters.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One thing that matters to some people is keeping their hair, Adam.
That's a true fact. Yeah. It can be a better look for some.
And if you've decided that, you've started to notice a little bit more of your forehead than you would have liked, that's why there's Hims. forhims.com. We've been promoting it now for a few months. And if you haven't gotten in on it, if you haven't heard about it, you should check it out. forhims.com.
It's a great way to get started if you were looking to get some of those products that do preserve your hair. Hims has been able to go ahead and provide that same formula at a much lesser cost. And it's a great way to go. And you don't have to go to the doctor.
And you mentioned it. No waiting room, none of those in-person doctor's visits. You can do it right over the phone.
Yeah, which that appeals to me.
Yep. Save hours by going to forhims.com. Our listeners get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today. Right now, while supplies last. See the website for full details. This would cost hundreds if you went to the doctor or a pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/hawkers. That's FORHIMS.com/hawkers, HAWKERS, forhims.com/hawkers. All right, Adam, what do you say we take a little break and get into the second half of the show?
Sounds good, man.
And getting into the second half of the show, go to Seahawkers.org if you want to find a Seahawkers chapter near you. They got them all over. And we even have a military chapter, militaryseahawkers.org. I think it's getting time to renew our Montana Seahawkers membership.
Yeah, I think it is about time for that. Yeah, got to stay up on your membership. That's for sure. A lot of cool things come with that, and including the banquet and all sorts of really fun things. So get involved, people. Join your local Seahawkers chapter.
You were kind of chuckling here at the end of the first half about some headline. Apparently, now I'm kind of curious of what you're looking at here.
All right, here was the headline, and I mean it's not even that funny, but Browns O-line coach Bob Wiley, quote, "Stretching is overrated because we won 2 world wars without it." And how can you argue with that logic? I don't know.
You can't argue.
I can't recall my grandpa probably, stretching before charging some, German force. I doubt that happened.
The Ichiro stretch like he did before every at bat.
Yeah, getting the hammies loose, before you go and like throw a grenade at somebody.
Yeah,
didn't happen. I mean, that's solid point, Coach Wiley.
No time for stretching.
That sounds like such an offensive lineman quote, doesn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
So I shared the picture with you. We got a nice little gift in for our 5th podiversary in the mail from Becca.
It was super cool. Like, I mean, so many little nuanced things in a really fun drawing of Brandan and I, all the way down to like my T-shirt that I'm wearing has like a no visor symbol on it, which is great. My hard hat has a little saw blade in the middle of it. Like, just really cool. You can tell a lot of time and thought went into that. And that's definitely going to hang in one of the podcast studios.
Yeah, we'll have to set up visitation rights and rotate it between our studios.
I think that's how that's going to have to go.
But you have your cross-country skis here, a little framed Do Better up behind you.
Right.
And
yeah,
then on my side is the Better at Life.
Yeah, because that's your thing. We talked about that last pod. And you got your little OU.
Got my little OU flag. You got your camera with the Santa hat down by your foot.
Right.
And the military ribbon with the Seahawks logo on my shirt.
There it is.
Yeah, this is cool.
It is cool. So thank you very much, Becca. You could tell a lot of time and effort went into that.
My favorite part of it is how it says, "Thank you for being a friend."
Yes, even a Golden Girls reference in there just for you. It was well thought out, top to bottom, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed seeing that in the mail today.
That was really fun.
One thing that came up on my conversation with Anthony with the Knock on Sports was this talking about the tackling and the calls, the lowering the helmet type call that, gosh, you turn on sports radio and it seems to be all they're talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been executed well to this point. I mean, I was watching, I can't remember which game. Anyways, the DB
Vikings game.
Yeah, DB hits him with the shoulder and he gets a flag because his head went down, but he didn't hit him with it. Hit him with his shoulder.
Well, you have to
the
lower
reason
your
his
head
went down to lower your shoulder. Like, I just, at the end of the day, I think it's just an impossible maneuver, right?
For the officials to call it as the rule is written is impossible.
Well, that too. And for the players to execute it the way that it's written is impossible. I don't think you can, like, what are they supposed to do? Tackle, like, completely standing upright every single time? That's not how it works.
Well, and that's not how they're calling it every single time either.
Right, I understand that, but yeah.
And in fact, in the Seahawks games, I feel like most of what we've seen have been the helmet-to-helmet collisions, the defenseless receiver collisions, and they all kind of seem to bundle it under this lowering the helmet rule now, which I don't necessarily get. I think there's some stuff to clean up for sure. I'm seeing this as more, think about what they would do right now in the NFL if all of a sudden you decided, okay, we're going to start calling holding. Because there's so many differences in the way you see holding called. You hear people that, the cliche that you could call holding on every play. And a lot of times you see a guy, they allow the holding, but it's in between like the shoulders, and that's okay for an offensive lineman to do. But if you get outside, it's not okay. Right. And so that's why I'm wondering if there's nuance to this helmet rule and how they do those holding rules.
I don't understand the purpose of it to begin with, because you just said a lot of them that we've seen in the Seahawks games were kind of covered with the idea of the helmet-to-helmet rule, right?
Yeah.
And the defensive receiver rule. So what is the purpose of this extra layer of rule on top of all it? Like the instances where this is a problem, there are already rules in place to try to prevent these things.
Well, like the spearing rule. That's one that's been on the books for a long time, and we never hear spearing get called.
Correct.
And to me, that's the rule that this fits in the best with, is using the crown of your helmet to go in and make a tackle. Yeah.
As a weapon.
Right.
So I think the rules are already there. Like, placing this new one on here that is difficult to enforce doesn't make a lick of sense to me. It could just go away tomorrow, and I think everything would be just fine.
I think so.
I don't need it. I don't like it. It can go away.
I just don't know if it's going to have the impact that I just hear so much discussion on it when I turn on sports radio nowadays. I go from my house to work. It's about a 5-minute drive, and I turn on the XM NFL channel, and almost every time that's what they're talking about. I don't think I need to hear about it this much. I don't think it's going to have that much of an impact. It's like how much holding has an impact.
I guess we'll find out. I mean, it depends on how much they call it during the regular season. I feel like in the preseason, you're going to see it called a lot more as they're trying to emphasize it, quote unquote, right? Mm-hmm. When the regular season comes, I don't see them calling it with the frequency that they are now. And I think it'll be in situations that are clearly egregious that it's called.
Well, there have been a few instances where you look at that and they have no business being called. It's almost like now that they kind of seem to have figured out the catch rule, this is going to be the penalty.
Have they?
Well, I think with the actual rule stuff side of it, they have.
Okay, then.
Maybe they're just tired of catch rule attention. They needed a new rule for people to be upset about.
Well, I could have fixed the catch rule for them in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Possession, 2 feet, catch.
I think that's kind of what they've gone to, though.
Yeah, it's close. It's closer to that.
Yeah.
You can get rid of all the other superfluous stuff, but yeah.
One of the things that we've talked about on the show pretty regularly is we've talked about meth a lot on the show, actually.
Right.
And how you shouldn't do it.
Correct. I think that's a consistent overriding theme of the show. Don't do meth.
Don't do meth. And I was looking at the Seattle police blotter this past week. I mentioned to you my hit and run on one of the recent shows. Mm-hmm. So I was checking out the police website, and this one caught my eye. Police arrested a car thief on Capitol Hill early this morning after he stole a pizza delivery's driver's vehicle, ate some chicken wings, and invoked an obscure, some might say non-existent, federal statute in an attempt to street lawyer his way out of trouble. This is well written for a police blotter site.
I guess, yeah.
Police arrested the driver who claimed the stolen car belonged to a friend of his and that, quote, he was 80% sure that federal law allowed him to take the car.
I think that's where he screwed up. He needed to go higher with his percentage.
100%.
He needed to be like, I'm 99.9% sure, like, federal law says that I can take my buddy's car and eat the chicken wings. So that's what I did, and have a nice day. You gotta say it declaratively. If you go, I'm like 80% sure that it does, so
let's leave it too much percent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Too much doubt.
Officers noted he appeared to be under the influence of methamphetamine and alcohol, had a suspended license, and is legally required to drive only vehicles with an ignition interlock device. Police inspected the stolen vehicle and found the suspect appeared to have consumed a box of jalapeno chicken wings. He also apparently disposed of the car's domino sign, which was not recovered.
So there's a rogue domino sign out there?
There's just a domino sign out there on the street where he ditched it.
Somewhere in Capitol Hill, huh?
Be on the lookout.
Hey, man, yeah. You can free domino sign.
Dominoes need their sign back.
No, you go find that, you keep it, and you put it in your, like, down in your little den or whatever.
It'd be like your own low-rent pop culture museum.
Correct. And then you can be 80% sure that you were allowed to take it because you found it in the ditch.
Moral of the story, don't do meth.
Yeah, don't do meth.
Get these hairs all out of my face. Get these bugs all out of my place. One more hit, no time to waste. Oh, meth. Oh, meth.
Wow. I didn't know that was coming, and I didn't know what that was at first. That's amazing.
That was from the 90s meth commercial.
Wow. Well, apparently not effective enough to keep this guy off of the meth.
No, they needed to run those commercials a little bit longer.
Or maybe change them completely, because that was a little terrifying when you didn't see it coming.
And actually, the full commercial, it's showing this lady who's like all about cleaning her house and just how much work she can get done by doing meth and how great it is. It seems like,
yeah,
the way it starts out is almost like a pro meth commercial.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to advertise it as a productivity enhancer. Like, that's not what you want.
Well, as we started off the top of the show, thanks again for making us the finalists in the 13th Annual Podcast Awards. I have no doubt going up against, some of these podunk podcasts like Move the Sticks, Around the NFL, ESPN's 30 for 30 podcasts. We're going to come out on top this year.
What's ESPN? I've never even heard of those jokers. So, yeah. Okay. We'll easily win this.
And the folks that got us there are members of the flock. Got us over 300 this last week. Part of it is because I didn't do the counting very well on the non-Patreon side. So I had 10 more there, and then we hit 279 at getintheflock.com, and that put us over the 300.
And there we are. We did it. We did the first post-game show. The next preseason game's Friday, correct?
Yes.
I'll see if I can watch that live. I may be in the mill Friday evening trying to get set up for the weekend. So we'll see. If I can do it, we'll do it. But yeah, that's that has always been the caveat to the post game show is I may be working, and if I am, then not a lot I can do about it. I got to wait till later to watch the game and do it. So
okay, we'll work through
unless
that.
you want to do it with someone else, you know what I mean? Like, we have some people that could fill in.
We got people who could fill in. I could do it solo.
Yeah, do you would go cowherd style?
Maybe.
Think you could do that?
I mean, I could. I don't know how it'd be.
I've thought about that, man. I think that'd be hard.
I think it is hard.
Kind of have to argue with yourself.
And I'm not even good at arguing with you.
No.
Well, thanking some of our new members of the flock this week, starting with Tyler Watt. In at 1212 says, I don't know if you guys will read this, but I really appreciate the show. You give me a lot of laughs and new perspectives on how this team looks. 8-8 is where I'm at with the Hawks, but I believe we definitely have a chance to prove a lot of doubters wrong. Go Hawks.
Hey, go Hawks, Tyler. I appreciate you getting in. Say hi to your brother, JJ. I assume he's one of that Watt clan, right?
Sure. Has to be. They're all related.
Yeah, of course. But I've seen a couple predictions. Pepper Horton in the Ring of Honor was saying the over-under to him is 6.5.
Yeah.
And
Bloomquist is there, too.
Yeah. They all seem to forget that their quarterback, if as long as he's healthy, pencil in 9 wins.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just, and if you don't believe me, there's a whole season of football that you can watch called the 2017 Seahawks, and it proves it out. Like
featuring Russell Wilson,
winning you 9 games. So yeah, and not only that, but we lost 3 games by kicker.
Yeah,
by kicker. And like that's the easiest thing in the world to improve upon, unless you're the Tampa Bay Bucks or
the Chargers.
Yeah, and we brought in Seabass. It's going to be an improvement. We're not going to lose 3 games just by kicker.
No.
Have some faith, people.
Have some faith. Taylor Widrick has some faith, and he's in at 1212, says, just joined the flock, been a Hawks fan for years, season ticket holder for 15 plus years, and I can't listen to anything else. Too much Hawks bashing out there. You guys are great, and I can't get enough. Been listening for just a few months, but love the show. Keep up the great work. Hope to see you at a game this year. Go Hawks. Suck it, Rams.
Yeah. All right. That's the exact type of 12 that we need in the Ring of Honor. That's for sure. Right there. We're on the same page. I love it.
Welcome, Taylor. Welcome to the flock to Sam Sullivan in at 1212. Finally joined the flock, Seattle native, living out here in Kansas. Love the podcast. Great way to keep up with the Hawks in Kansas, and keeps me saying there's no place like home when I click my heels. I'm sure Adam will have fun with that. As always, go Hawks.
Dude, I don't know how you can go from the Northwest to Kansas. I'm struggling to figure out what the draw is to bring them there. It better be an amazing woman or an amazing job or a combination of both. But there would be no other excuse. I'd lose my mind in Kansas. Not having a mountain or like 3 trees in the whole state. And look that up. That's true. There's 3 trees in the entire state.
True fact.
I couldn't do. That's a true fact. And one of it is like one of them is just like a really big sagebrush bush. That's it.
Well, we're getting a preview up here in the Flathead Valley of what it's like to not have the mountains. And I know people in Seattle can't even see Mount Rainier, so.
You can never see Mount Rainier. It's usually covered by the clouds. What's the difference?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Tracy Wong in at 1212. I think maybe a relative of another flock member, Gary. So, Tracy, welcome to the flock.
Yay. All right. We're bringing in the whole clan now, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, appreciate it, Tracy.
Patrick Clayton in at $5 said, I found it was time to stop being a freeloader. And after hearing Adam a little inebriated for your post-third quarter game coverage, I feel we all need to hear much more of this. I look forward to the new podcast every week, and I'm so pumped we finally have football back. Living in the Phoenix metro area can be hard at times with so many Cardinals fans, but nothing brings warmth to my heart more than reminding them of who their quarterbacks are and how bad their team season is going to be this year. Keep up the good work. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man. The only thing worse than being in Kansas might be in Phoenix. It's hotter, and there's just Cards fans. Well, there's like 10 of them. No, actually, there's 3 Cards fans in the entire state of Arizona, and you're surrounded by them in Phoenix. That's it. We all know they don't have any real fans.
No real fans. Alex Braden in at 312 finally decided to get in the flock and help y'all reach the 300 goal. Can't wait to hear Adam drunkenly rant about a ref call or shout glorious praises over a Russell Wilson squiggle play. I'm a medical delivery driver, and I've listened to every pod since last preseason. Keep up the great work, and go Hawks. P.S. More guests, please.
Oh, he likes the guests.
He likes the guests. And Alex is the latest in a long line of Alexes to support the show. We have 3 Alexes. We have one in Texas, one in Oregon, one in Colorado. We have Alexander in Deutschland, and we even have Alexandra in Cali. So I think if your name's Alex and you're not supporting the show, you're in the minority.
You're doing it wrong because we want all the Alexes.
Got to collect them all.
It sounds like this post-game show, it's going to encourage my drinking. That's what it sounds like to me. Like, people seem to enjoy that.
Apparently.
I didn't listen back. I don't know how off the skis I went, but
no, it was fine.
Okay.
You're fine.
Well, good. I was fine?
You're fine.
Okay.
The drunken Adam is not all that much different. A lot of people have very different versions of themselves
when
they drink. And, like, you can get, like, super affectionate. and then you can also go swing the other way and be super angry.
Yeah.
You're just, you're that way normally. So I feel like it's not any different.
I'm a happy drunk, and I can hold my liquor. So like usually when I get pretty schmammered, like I can still operate like a regular human being.
Yeah.
I've definitely bumped into people like downtown Missoula, like bar hopping in my younger days, like back in my late 20s. And like so drunk that I don't remember seeing them, and then see them like 3-4 days later and be like, oh, hey man, I saw you out in front of the Rhino the other night, man. How you doing? Like, good to see you, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't remember any of that. And they're like, really? Like, I didn't even know you were drinking. So either I just act like a drunk a-hole at all times, or I'm able to just hold it together and not act like a drunk a-hole when I'm actually being a drunk a-hole.
It's one of the two.
It's one of the two. I'm hoping it's the latter.
I don't even know if I can give you a definitive answer.
I don't either. I'm a very confusing person, apparently.
Stephen Huey in at $3. Welcome to the flock, Stephen.
Hey, man.
Garen Taylor also in at $3. Welcome to the flock to Garen.
Those two fellas right there, like part of the final push to get over 300. You guys should be proud. Give yourself a little pat on the back.
Yeah. And Hank Sink also in as well at $1 for stickers and bonus shows. It says, I know you don't like asking for money, so read my email instead. You're a Seahawks fan, and you listen to the Seahawkers podcast. That makes you better at life than Skip Bayless. Now don't bother me with facts, logic, and reason. Moving on, do better, and hawk up a monthly donation to enjoy the extra content. Let's get our favorite podcast over 300 members. Your Pawhawk, Hank Sink.
That's perfect. Hank Sink's our new hype man.
I think so.
I love it. That's great. Yeah, the Boda shows, we'll be starting those up here again right about the beginning of the season. So just a couple weeks away. So with being over the 300 and everything, that sounds like 3 shows a week.
It's good. We're going to be busy, dude.
Yeah.
Kelsey Beasley, last one in at $1. Kelsey, welcome to the flock.
That's awesome. Thank you, Kelsey. I hope you enjoy the stickers.
And we mentioned Jared Perkins' name on the last show because he went from 6 to 2018. And he's the one that pushed us to the 300 number.
Yeah.
And coming in at 2018.
A fellow Missoulian, too. Yeah.
And when you come in at 2018, it comes with the Hauschka cleansing.
Oh. Yeah. Was Jared due for a Hauschka cleansing?
Jared apparently due for a Hauschka cleansing.
Okay.
So I got the music up.
Okay.
And this is where we cleanse his Hauschka.
I think
we even have the Hawks flying by.
I wasn't ready for that. That almost scared me.
I wish people had the video because Adam literally ducked.
That's how I feel like something's swooping at my head when I hear that. That's not your instinct? Tell me, how many people, I'm sure there's a bunch of people, maybe even including Jared, like when they heard that, wherever they were, they instinctively ducked.
There's a Seahawk dive bombing me.
Yeah.
Well, we have to be in this, in our Hawkra room with our, fellow Osprey that they're just, flying around the room.
Ah.
So, Jared, welcome to the room. Your Hawkra is cleansed.
Be free. Enjoy another division title.
And we have some other people who gave us a raise this last week, too. Gary Wong, mentioned him earlier.
Yeah.
Came up from 1 to 12-12.
Oh, wow.
So Tracy and Gary both in at the 12s.
Yeah, making the leap. See, that's making the leap from like year 1 to year 2, right there. Going from 1 to 12-12. Like that's significant. Gary could be a starter now.
James McCarthy makes the leap up from 6 to 12-12.
Sweet. Well, welcome, James. Saw him in the Ring of Honor a little bit this last week.
Yeah. And Randy Horner edited his pledge. He's up to $3 from 1. So thanks for the raise, Randy. And he writes along, says, congrats on reaching 300. In lieu of this accomplishment and the fact that it's my 1-year anniversary of being in the flock, I'm tripling my monthly contribution. Okay, it's only a $2 boost, but if it keeps me from listening to you talk about male enhancement products, it's totally worth it. Thanks for a great year. You both are clearly better at life than Skip Bayless.
Well, thanks, Randy. Appreciate that. $2 does go a long ways towards that. Not having to do the ads. I think that was one of our last ones for the enhancement company, and we may have another one or two from different things that we've already been paid for that we gotta continue to run. But after that, we're done for a while.
There's 2 left that we're under contract for, and I think one is in September and one is in October. So they're actually really spread out too.
Right. So
and then we'll be done.
Yeah, then we'll be done.
We were reminded of that last week after we made the announcement that we were done, that we actually had a couple more.
Right. Did somebody come out and remind us of that, or did you just notice?
Well, no, I got the email saying, here's the talking points for coming up. And gotcha. I said, I thought we weren't doing anything anymore. And they're like, oh, yeah, you agreed to this back in June. And I said, I guess I did.
Okay, well, that's fine. I just they said they were done, so I was like, whatever, man.
I just don't keep track of this stuff. That's what we have somebody to do that for us.
Correct.
And when they don't keep track of it either, things get, confusing.
Lost in the shuffle. Yeah.
Brett writes in, has a solution for right tackle. Says, greetings, gentlemen. Congrats on reaching 300 little flockers. I am excited for you guys and excited that only 2,700 more little flockers are required for Adam to do the flute dance wearing a visor and man bun.
I'll do it with a smile. if we end up at 3,000 little flockers. Yeah.
I also had a question regarding Seahawks right tackle woes. Why not sign George Fant or Risa Odhiambo as tight ends and just have one pass directed at them during the year? The rest of the time, they can help Jermaine Ifedi at right tackle. The Hawks would be less potent in the pass game, but at least Russ will get some protection. Congrats again, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man. Look, I understand the thought process there. I think that was the idea of bringing in Uncle Will.
Yeah.
It was basically for that very thing.
And you can line up, or you can even line up another tackle. They've done it in past games where you have another tackle next to a tackle, and they just have to report as being an eligible. Receiver.
Totally doable. We don't even have to change their position group, right?
Right. Yeah, they can just be a tackle and just line up in that spot.
Gotcha.
And Fant might be just taking Ifedi's job anyway, so that might just be the solution.
There you go.
Or Willie Beavers.
I wish Willie Beavers was the answer, but I don't think he is.
Got a review that came in from Valor Morgolis in Canada. Says, best Seahawks podcast. Adam and Brandan provide an informative and quirky duo when providing the 411 with respect to the week-to-week reporting software, the greatest football squad in the new millennium. Whereas Brandan is sobering yin to Adam's bombastic yang, entertainment often ensues. Even in the off-season, their podcasts go for up to 90 minutes. They often bring in guests to provide hardcore statistical analysis of players and team performance if you can't get enough information. This is my favorite podcast, and as a new subscriber, I'm looking forward to following them in the upcoming season. Thanks,
sure, man. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. And the idea is we do blather on for 90 minutes even in the off season.
It's true.
Yeah, we managed to do it. But yeah, appreciate that, dude. And welcome as a subscriber. Yeah, all of you who are listening who haven't hit the little subscribe button, however it is that you find the podcast, that's every bit as helpful as it's almost every bit as helpful as being a little flocker, like actually getting in and donating that way. So that's another way you can help the show, or by writing an amazing review just like that.
Or by telling your friends, all your Seahawks fan friends.
Right. There you go.
Get them on board too. GetInTheFlock.com if you want to join us there. What do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
Sounds good, man. What do you got for do better?
My do better this week is for the media reaction following Jalen Ramsey. You know, he was interviewed by Clay Skipper of GQ. Mm-hmm. Full article. And the biggest thing that came out of it, though, was all of his interesting takes on the different quarterbacks.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you had to have seen this article, right? Like,
oh, totally.
He listed everybody who sucks.
Yeah.
And this was the only thing that apparently was newsworthy out of this entire article. Because that's all we saw was the list of how he ranked out his quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, it was interesting in the sense that you got an idea as to how he looked at the quarterbacks, but the idea that this was somehow big news or inflammatory or sensationalized, or I didn't get it. I was like, well, yeah, I'm sure he does think that Andrew Luck isn't all that good. He's one of the opposing quarterbacks in his division. I'm sure that none of his assessments stunned me. I didn't. I don't know.
In fact, him saying Joe Flacco sucks and that Matt Ryan is overrated almost aligns with your views of quarterbacks perfectly.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he's that far off. And when you ask somebody to share their opinion, I would like them to actually give it. So he was getting, lambasted for this to a degree, and it was I just didn't understand the.
You thought he was getting lambasted? Because to me, I saw the almost opposite reaction. I think if Richard Sherman comes out and does an article like this, Sherman gets lambasted, and this is almost like it's cheered on by people in the media. Oh, look at how awesome Jalen Ramsey is, speaking his mind. And where was that with Sherman, right?
Yeah, I guess instead of maybe criticism, I think or praise, I kind of got from the media was, oh, look at what Jalen Ramsey said. That's a little crazy, huh? But not oh my gosh, what a disgrace to the game and blah, 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 blah. And this guy's so bombastic and so disrespectful. I guess Jalen Ramsey should give Sherman a big thank you card because he paved the way to be able to just speak your mind.
Yeah, one interesting quote that you won't hear from the GQ story in traditional sports media. He talks about how everything he says gets turned around and used against him. He says, everything I say catches the internet, literally everything. I could say something I feel is light and it's going to go crazy. And they find a way to twist it a little bit, too. When we were doing interviews right before the game with the Patriots, they're like, are you going to be on Gronk at all? I kept deferring the question because the coach wanted us to not tell anybody the game plan. And so he said that he's just going to do whatever the game plan is. And then they asked me, but if you do happen to get on him, how do you think you'll match up against him? And I said, I think I'll match up well against him. Gronk's never played a corner like me. And they blew it up saying Jalen Ramsey says Gronk has never seen a corner like him. And so here's Ramsey calling out the media for just essentially what they do every week. And that almost feels like I'm leading into a better life. But for covering it in the way that it did coming out of this, do better.
I agree, man. Yeah, the national media did not get on board with that statement that Jalen Ramsey made there. And all they talked about was that Josh Allen was trash.
Yeah.
And
Joe Flacco sucks.
Right. But they didn't want to talk about how they sucked. That's for sure. No. Yeah. Do better for sure. All right, man. My do better this week is for the said national media. Because originally it was just going to be for the fella from New England that...
Ben Volen of the Boston Globe.
Yeah. That,
I think I know where you're going with this.
Broke the story that the Seattle Seahawks were going to trade a second-round pick for Jacoby Brissett. That they offered that to the Colts. Now, the reaction to this is unbelievable. Every single person that retweeted that, wrote an article about that, as if it were fact, needs to have their journalism card revoked. Because all you have to do is ask. You don't even have to ask anybody else. All you have to do is ask yourself a couple quick questions, and you realize right quick everything about that story is bullshit. Catfish. My initial reaction, because it didn't even dawn on me when I saw the headline in the first place, was that we didn't even have a second round pick next year to deal for Jacoby Brissett. My first reaction was the story read something along the lines of, the Seahawks are concerned Russell Wilson's going to get hurt, so they wanted to trade the second-round pick to get Jacoby Brissett in here to be the backup, right?
Yeah.
That was the crux of the story. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, if they're really concerned about Russell Wilson getting hurt because the offensive line stinks, don't you think they trade that second-round pick for, say, I don't know, an offensive lineman instead of a backup quarterback? So that right there, was the first, part of it. And then the second part of it was, clearly, Andrew Luck is healthy and he's looked decent enough in the preseason. They've got this asset in Jacoby Brissett. It's in the Colts' best interest and Jacoby Brissett's best interest to ramp up his trade value so that they can try to get a little bit more. This was clearly a planted story to try to get a higher trade ransom for Jacoby Brissett whenever it is that they do eventually trade him.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, it was transparent. Like, you could see through this in a heartbeat to start with. And then I think it was either Dave Bloomquist or DCH. It was one of those two dudes on the Ring of Honor were like, oh, and by the way, we don't even have a second round pick.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
it was traded for Dwayne Brown.
Yes. If you do a half a second of research, a half a second of thought, you realize right quick that there's no possible way this is a true story. But yet, outlet after news outlet, people retweeting, writing articles as if it were fact. Chris Wessling from freaking NFL Network fell into this trap.
Yeah.
And wrote an article about how this was true. And then who was it that came out finally and was like, yeah, no, that never happened. It was like Ian Rappaport. Somebody like that?
Jason Lockenfora.
Jason Lockenfora, there it was. And somebody who had retweeted that was like, I'm surprised people needed to be told this. Because, yeah, catfish, duh. Like, there's no way this was true. Like, why would you trade a second round pick for Jacoby? It doesn't make any freaking sense. And then not only that, so after Lockenfora, put that out there, people are still retweeting and writing stories about this. Then Ballard, the general manager of the Colts, comes out and says, no, the Seahawks never offered us that. And there are still articles coming out. I read an article on field goals where the guy at the end of it says, well, I'm 99% sure the reporting is accurate on this. And my thought is that, they actually did offer it, basically. But it was more of a casual conversation. What the hell are you talking about? None of this is true. If you think this is 99% true, you need to rethink journalism as a whole. So for every single freaking journalist that couldn't pull their head out of their butt and use facts, logic, and reason for 2 freaking seconds, do better.
Yeah, a conversation is not an offer. Like, I read the field goals piece too. And yeah, okay, maybe there was a conversation at some point, but it seems more like a planned story.
This came from Brissett's agent. That's where this came from.
Because exactly what we saw with Garoppolo, they want him to be traded for a second round pick so he can go somewhere and get paid like Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right. Who would be the best person to do that? Brissett's agent.
There you go. Hey, where did Jacoby Brissett start his career?
New England.
Was it New England? Oh, right. So I'm guessing his agent's probably from around there.
And where did this story come out of? He might even have the same agent as Garoppolo.
It was just dumb. It annoyed me. That whole news cycle annoyed the hell out of me.
Could have been for a 2020 second rounder, Adam. You don't know that.
Do we even have a 2020 second rounder?
Probably. I don't know. Or maybe it was Earl Thomas for Jacoby Brissett and a second.
Right. Yeah, wait for that story to come out next.
Because that would make more sense to me.
I don't know. None of it makes any sense.
On to Better at Life. My Better at Life this week is for doctors in the Northwest for giving us an excuse to be a little bit more lazy when it comes to housework. Air quality is apparently so bad in the Pacific Northwest, KGW came out with an article that says we shouldn't vacuum our houses. It said, avoid vacuuming for up to a week. Why is that? Because it can stir up some of the particulate matter that has settled, and it makes unhealthy air even worse. If your wife's on you, saying, hey, you haven't vacuumed this week. Yeah, doctors told me not to. It's unhealthy. So for them, better at life than Skip Bayless.
That's amazing advice right there. Like, yeah, that's one of those things where you're like, no, professionals say I'm not supposed to do this right now.
I'm not supposed to do my house chores.
Exactly.
And that sounds like an excuse that a kid would probably make up, but this is coming from professionals.
These are coming from leading scientists. Well, this actually parlays into my Better at Life than Skip Bayless then, because my Better at Life for Skip Bayless is for Nintendo. So by not vacuuming and not having to deal with that nonsense, you have more time to play the NES Classic. They came out with the new Nintendo a little while ago, like the original Nintendo, but it's tiny. Yeah. Like it fits in the palm of your hand. You don't have to put in the cartridges, right?
Right.
Like they were hard to come by for a while, but I picked one up yesterday.
You finally got one?
I finally got one. It's been on my radar for a while. It's relatively inexpensive. And it came with 30 games, which I was like, the wrong Tecmo Bowl, by the way. The original Tecmo Bowl, not Tecmo Super Bowl. But I was like, that's pretty cool, until I got on the internet and realized that you could put 800 games on the NES.
I was going to say.
And so, yeah. And so that's what I did. I did the little hack.
Oh,
I've
my
got
gosh.
820.
You did that?
Well, somebody else invented it, and then I just followed their steps.
Yeah, but I'm impressed.
Yeah, it was easy. I'll put it to you that way. It took about 40 minutes just, because of downloads and things like that. But it was easy.
Yeah.
It was amazing. The experience is really fun. The control, everything's exactly the same. The gameplay is cool. Everything about it is awesome. And it takes me back. And so I can play video games that are my speed, with, basically just my thumbs, rather than the games today that run at incredible speeds. And you have to use all of your fingers, all of your toes. And I'm pretty sure one of your eyelids to operate the controller like at all times. It's way too complicated and no fun. So bringing back the joy of original Nintendo, better at life than Skip Bayless, Nintendo.
I might have a little add-on to that, because you mentioned the controllers and how complicated they are.
Yeah.
Microsoft developed a controller, and they had Shaquem Griffin try it out. And apparently he's always had to do some kind of contortive move to make sure he can control the other side of the controller.
That makes sense.
And they've made a modified version that you can plug into it, so you can use your feet, and so you really can use your whole body. But it makes it so for people who are disabled that they have full access to all the buttons.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there were people out there doing this sort of thing. That's pretty cool.
So there you go. Microsoft, we can throw them in there too.
Okay. Also better at life.
All right, man.
Cool. Well, we did it.
You did it.
On the second try. We got it. Nailed it.
You hit record this time?
In fact, it is still recording.
Oh, bonus.
Yeah. So it's done it the whole time. I think it's good.
Well, we will be back, whether it's after the Vikings or sometime next week.
Yep.
Adam's work schedule, obviously, taking precedence. And we'll have our Pick'em League by next week all set up. I'm right in the midst of that. It's been hard finding a good Pick'em League.
Been a little more complicated than we had envisioned. So hang with us. We're almost there. Yeah. And once we get it up and rolling, can't wait to compete with all y'all. It'll be a lot of fun.
The downside is that you are going to have to click a submit button to submit your picks. Unlike NFL.com, where you can just click the team. So there's an extra step of challenge there.
Somehow.
I'm passing that along because the challenge for me was doing the tiebreakers, and the new league will fix that.
Yes.
So to make it easier for me, I'm making it harder on the listeners by having to hit a submit button.
Somehow I think they'll be able to overcome that unbelievable burden.
And with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Exactly. They told us that up front,
You want to finish your food?
Sorry, I'm hungry. And these kind granola bars are hard to chew, man. I thought I could sneak that in there. I thought you were going to talk longer.
I should have.
Okay, Princess is ready now. All right, I'm done eating.
It's just another example of the competition that's on the roster. It's good for everybody. It's good for the guys that are in front. It's great for the guys that are working for their spots, and that's always been our mentality.
Is Pete on speed?
I recorded that on 1.3 speed off of YouTube.
Do you even do your YouTube videos at fast speed?
For the press conferences, I do.
God, I don't know how you do it, dude. It is so jarring. For all of you who don't know, Brandan listens to all his podcasts and all that stuff at 1.5 speed. Everybody sounds like a freaking chipmunk. And it sounds like they just chowed down a bunch of speed. It's like mainlining a podcast. I don't understand it. It's really weird. It messes with my head every time.
I got to dial back when I actually do the clips.
Because I was really excited about George Fant. He's going to go ahead and compete, and he's coming a long way in a really fast period of time.
I'll slow the clip down for the real thing.
Well, you can't now.
Why not?
Because now the rest of this will make no sense.